I think that there are class systems, whether people acknowledge it or not, exist within each of those cities.
They may sit side by side on the map, but to most people, their proximity to one another is one of the few things Eugene and Springfield have in common.
Once you move from going to one city to the next, there's clearly an identity.
I certainly am a more liberal person, and Sid's certainly a more conservative person.
Tie-dye here and maybe some cowboy hats out there.
There are some people in Eugene that are maybe a little more hoity-toity.
You know, you hear the Spring-tucky and, you know, the hillbilly type of thing, and then Eugene is, you know, Berkeley North.
Eugene's more fancy class than Springfield is.
Descriptions that range from class to culture to simple economics.
Oh, it's cheaper to live in Springfield than Eugene.
Eugene would be the San Francisco, and Oakland would be the Springfield.
Eugenians used to call us Spring-tuckians because Elias Briggs was from Kentucky.
Some of the differences are factual, others more instinctual, many of them simply perceived. All of them, though, find their roots reaching back to the early 1900s.
In the 1890s is when Springfield began to become a real mill town. This is the beginning of where we get this image of Springfield as the mill city, whereas Eugene is the university city. So that really began to crystallize about the turn of the century.
While the overall differences in size can be traced to developments like the railroad or the courthouse landing in Eugene instead of Springfield, the University of Oregon is widely regarded as the institution that completely altered the ideological landscape.
That totally changed the relationship between Springfield and Eugene.
That really set up the imagery that Eugene was where the university people live.
Probably in large part because we do have the university here. We have a long history of a high level of public engagement,
which was never more evident than in the late 1960s.
The Vietnam War, where it was very charged demonstrations in our community, and so you had us being a center of the peace movement.
Protests that contributed to Eugene's modern-day image and ignited a mentality that slowly became the city's MO.
When the timber spotted owl and all of that came, a lot of the environmental movement was centered in Eugene.
Many of the ways you characterize Eugene as, you know, liberal, stuck in the 60s, maybe more progressive. I think there are times when certainly those labels apply.
Activism that reached extreme levels at times, even reaching a point where some circles viewed Eugene as an anarchist hotbed. While the University of Oregon has clearly spawned many of the labels that have been applied to a city known for its progressive attitudes, people who live there put just as much stock into a description that includes the diversity found within its boundaries.
We are very ardently engaged in having a whole lot of different value systems.
The notion that for every hippie or liberal member of Eugene's society, you can find their conservative counterpart.
There is a certain tension here politically between folks who'd like to see us grow a little faster and those who'd like to see us grow a little slower.
Regardless of what Eugene's true identity is, though, the trademark it bears is certainly more often one reflective of its countercultural roots, and one that differs greatly compared to its neighbor to the east.
Blue collar.
Blue collar.
Blue collar.
Blue collar.
Blue collar.
Blue collar. Those two words, more than any others, have come to encompass what most people think of when they hear Springfield, Oregon. An image that may best be personified by the nationally renowned First Family of Springfield.
For a long time, they were more of a blue-collar community. People had pretty much shared the same perspective of the world.
It was very blue-collar for most of its history.
It was primarily a logging and lumber industry.
A community not afraid of getting its hands dirty. An image that Springfieldians not only adopted as their own, but wear as a badge of honor.
Blue collar sometimes is a mentality too. It's not just describing the job. I would rather think that Springfield folks are pretty unified and practical.
A practicality many people see within the city's government.
Springfield gets stuff done.
We're not too enamored of long processes.
Springfield City Council, a 5-person group, rarely seems to disagree on much, at least publicly anyway.
There's a very practical reason for that. You're elected citywide in Springfield. In Eugene, you're elected by the district or ward that you live in. And so when you get elected in Springfield, all the voters elect you. You know, there's a difference of opinions here. I think sometimes they think Springfielders all have just one mind. That's not true at all. But I do believe that there's an overriding kind of thing. Let's make a decision, we'll go with a decision.
Which is not something the city of Eugene is known for.
Eugene, you got to have a committee, to have a committee, to have a committee, just to have a committee to talk about getting something done.
I think they make too many hoops for people to jump through, and then if the city approves something, then you've got a bunch of citizens who want to second guess them.
However, while some might call that process tedious, others call it thorough, an quality that citizens should be proud of.
If people want to act like we're fussing with each other, I guess they can continue to try to say that. So yes, sometimes people find it a little trying, but overall I think we benefit.
Those benefits Mayor Piercy believes are easy to spot. From the Holt Center to a state-of-the-art library, to Autzen Stadium, to the soon-to-be-finished new Mac Court, Eugene touts some of the nicer facilities you'll find anywhere in this part of the state. And while its downtown may have some holes in it, it does not struggle by and large with the kind of tenants that do business there, an issue Springfield is still trying to find a solution to.
Sometimes it's a challenge for me. They are a business, they're legitimate, they're legal, whether I like it or not, or whether I think it's moral or anything else. But if it's making money and it's producing, that's probably one of the main reasons why they come to our downtown corridor. We'll assure you that the people who attend those or come to those strip clubs do not have just Springfield zip codes only.
A scenario, ironically, very reminiscent of the past.
In 1910, Eugene had voted itself dry.
They ran a streetcar from Eugene to Springfield, probably as many trips as they could get in a day. And if you wanted to wet your whistle, you had to come to Springfield.
With all that said, though, many of the aspects found within each city's cultural, economical, and philosophical makeup are also the very same qualities that make the two more alike than many people realize.